UFO leaves behind a mysterious glowing ring.
Its contrast to the soil in the center and the soil around it is remarkable.
Strange pieces of metal are found in a human body after an alien encounter.
There's absolutely no inflammatory response by the body to the object, which is quote-unquote impossible.
An entire Mexican recovery team allegedly perishes when inspecting a UFO crash site.
They were able to see there were a number of dead bodies, which led them to believe that something extraordinary had happened.
And flying saucers are caught on film.
It looks like a very faint star, but then emits a very bright, white, green light.
The 1970s was an era of some of the most extraordinary UFO sightings ever reported. November 2nd, 1971, Delphos, Kansas. 16-year-old Ronnie Johnson was doing his chores on a small farm at approximately 6:30 in the evening. What occurs next changes Ronnie's life forever.
As he's working, suddenly he hears a noise, which sounds, he said, like a large, out-of-balance washing machine. It was very loud, and the area lit up. And there, hovering about 5 feet above the ground, was an object some 8 feet in diameter, the top of which was about 10 feet above the ground.
Ronnie watches in fear as the glowing, multicolored object lingers above the ground.
Toward the end of this period, the brightness of the object increased, the sound increased, and the glow at the base of the object increased. And the glow appeared to be like a shimmering steam that was falling from the base toward the ground.
And as he watched, it flared up in brightness and it blinded him as it took off.
He could hear the sound receding to the south slowly, and finally started regaining his vision, ran to the house, told his parents. They ran outside, also saw the object.
After they observe the object in the sky, the Johnsons walk over to where the young boy had said the craft was hovering. The family is astonished by what they see.
They saw this big luminescent ring in the ground and luminescence on the trees nearby.
So they ran to the house and they drug out the old Polaroid camera, and it had one image left. And they went out and she took the only photograph I've ever seen of a luminous sight taken within 10 minutes of the ascent of an object.
This is the actual Polaroid photograph taken by Ronnie's mother, Irma Johnson. After photographing the glowing ring, the family quickly realizes that there is much more to discover.
Ron's parents both touched the newly deposited substance that was released by this UFO, and immediately their fingers became numb. Mrs. Johnson touched her leg with her hand, and her leg became numb.
Frightened by the physical effect on her body, the family continues to survey the property for additional clues to what could possibly have happened.
The only route into this area is a round 7-inch diameter tree that was lying on the ground. The previous afternoon, the tree was upright and fine.
Did the mysterious craft knock down the tree? The Johnson family is left clueless. The next day, Sheriff Ralph Inlow launches an investigation on the property.
When the sheriff arrived and he went out into the site, he was the first one to notice a broken tree limb, which was broken 8.5 feet above the ground and initially had projected out over the edge of the ring. So he decided, well, probably this is broken back and downward because of an object or a solid something that went in there.
Sheriff Inlow also discovers a mysterious residue inside the ring.
And by that point in time, the ground surface of the ring was a pure white crust, very hard. And as shows up in the photograph, its contrast to the soil in the center and the soil around it is remarkable.
Perplexed by his findings, Sheriff Inlow collects soil samples and locks them in his office safe. 4 weeks later, word of the Delphos incident reaches Northwestern University astronomer and U.S. government UFO consultant, Dr. J. Allen Hynek. As early as the 1960s, Dr. Hynek believed that physical evidence is the key to solving the UFO enigma. Intrigued, he sends his colleague Ted Phillips to investigate.
When I arrived at the farm, I talked to the witnesses briefly, and they took me out to the side of the ring, which was a mud bog. And to my amazement, here in this black, wet, sloppy, water-retaining soil was a perfectly outlined ring of snow, unmelted snow, and totally covered, just the ring. And it was an amazing thing to see, so I shot a lot of photos of it.
The unmelted snow is a startling piece of evidence in Phillips' investigation. The ring at the landing site is hydrophobic or water repellent. Something has affected the soil.
Well, this is very significant because the same thing has happened in a lot of cases where UFOs have landed or nearly landed. They have changed the soil and changed the plant life so nothing grows.
Phillips methodically approaches Delphos and other cases with the precision of a crime scene investigator.
In a crime scene investigation, the predominant theory is that you cannot walk into a crime scene and leave without taking something with you and or leaving something behind. And it's up to the investigator or the crime scene tech to find out what that was. Same thing holds true in a UFO incident.
So the first thing you do is photograph everything before you disturb any part of the crime scene. And so after I had done all the necessary photography, I started laying out lines and getting measurements to get the exact size of the ring. After I had gone thoroughly over the ring, I started looking over the other area with the family kind of taking me, okay, this happened here, this happened there.
Phillips also scrutinizes the Polaroid photograph taken by Mrs. Johnson.
I tried many times to reproduce the Polaroid image shot that night. It's just not possible. I've tried everything, and again, using the same camera, the same film, same lighting conditions, with and without flash, and it's just not possible.
Intrigued by his findings at the site, Phillips returns to Dr. Hynek with nearly 40 pounds of soil samples and more than 100 photographs. Armed with the new Delphos evidence, Dr. Hynek enlists the help of a few scientists to obtain a valid and unbiased scientific opinion on the case. They conclude that the soil of the Delphos ring was considerably different from the normal ground soil. But the next breakthrough in the Delphos analysis doesn't come for more than 20 years, when Ted Phillips